Hi, I'm Caroline Howard, a biblical counselor and certified life breakthrough coach.
And I'm Chris Oneth, marriage and family therapist and executive director of Downey Park Counseling Associates.
Welcome to our next question, where we attempt to answer the questions of life through conversations in psychology and Christianity.
Remember, this is a place of discovery and definitely not the final answer.
We're back.
This is amazing.
We're here.
Steamrolling ahead.
I feel like I should have a really great question for you. And I got nothing.
If you were a box of cereal. No, I'm just kidding.
What cereal?
A box. What is your?
No.
Okay, yeah. So we're back. We have our guest back.
Part 2.
Monika.
Is it
And
okay to be single?
Caleb
Or-
is still here.
I'm still
What
here.
is being single? What is...
Whatever we decide the title is.
Caleb is
we'll-
not special. He's always here, so he can't be a special guest.
Wow.
He's
That's
a special
hurtful, I
producer
know.
guest. He's a special producer voice.
The voice in the background.
Okay, what was your favorite cereal as a kid?
Oh, gosh.
Captain Crunch.
Wow.
Wait, did you just
so
pick
mouth painful.
the berries out, or did you eat all of it?
There's no berries in
Right.
Captain Crunch.
I was going to say Captain Crunch as well. Yeah, you just go the regular, just the orange.
Dude, you gotta have the berries, and then you
Oh
pick
my
all
gosh.
the
Wait,
berries
there's no
out.
berries in my Captain
And it didn't
Crunch.
matter anyway. They all
Captain Crunch
tasted the
was-
same.
No, the berries are yummy.
Well, with Fruit Loops at least. I don't know. I
Yeah.
never had
I don't
Captain
like
Crunch
anything
with berries.
fruity. I like it basic.
Oh, Captain Crunch. I loved Cookie
Captain
Crisp.
Crunch.
Oh, my word.
But I've eaten that as an adult, and it's
Egregious.
so nasty.
It's
that
like
stuff is so nasty.
cookies.
I used to put
in
those in
milk.
my son's milk when he went from like formula to regular milk. I would drop a couple in there and shake it and be like,
Best
Oh,
mom ever.
Jeez. Yeah, no kidding. The cool mom.
She's spiking his milk with Cookie Crisp.
Jeez. It's like, more, please. When then if
hey,
he gets
he had his calcium.
if he gets normal milk, it's like, what is this? This isn't milk.
No, I slowly went from like 3 cookies to 2 cookies to 1 cookie.
You had to see. She had to wean him
the
off the
bait and
juice.
switch. Yes, absolutely. I was never allowed to have junk cereal. Mom had this thing. She didn't monitor us necessarily when we played outside or any of that stuff, but we couldn't. It had the first 2 ingredients couldn't be sugar. It had to be at least the 3rd ingredients, and so the only cereal I think that qualified was Apple Jacks.
Wait,
Maybe.
Apple
Really?
Jacks?
Well, we would get Cheerios all the time.
I love Cheerios.
And then I think Apple Jacks happened when it was like a special occasion. So, and then whenever, if ever I got a hold of, Lord willing, Captain Crunch, then of course my mouth didn't have the tolerance for the scraping and the hurt and the contusions that were going on because of
It's
Captain
an
Crunch.
adventure. Yeah.
It is an adventure.
Oh
We're
my
more
gosh.
hardcore
It's so
adults
painful, I
because
can't
we
stop
ate that
eating.
cereal.
Right, absolutely. And then what would happen is when I was more of a teenager, again, this is unusual. I remember I'm being raised in the 70s and 80s. Okay, so the notion in the house was, well, sugar bad, so she would get, of all things, Sweet and Low.
Oh,
Which, if you've
man.
ever tasted Sweet
like
and Low,
metal.
it is weird.
It is.
It is weird. And believe it or not, growing up, I didn't have a lot of discernment in the things I ate because it was just, put in front of me. And I don't know that I have discernment these days. All that to say is when I got married, my wife is very discerning about what she eats. And so it helped develop a palate for me. But anyway, I would take Sweet and Low and I would put it on Raisin Bran. Raisin Bran.
The raisins are already covered in sugar.
Well, apparently that wasn't enough for young Chris Oneth.
That's the only way I like to eat raisins is out of Raisin Bran.
Oh.
They're coated with
It's like the
sugar.
kid who never sees M&Ms, and when he sees them, he goes in there.
Yeah.
He's like, "Oh, the sugar."
Oh my gosh! So, and then Mom would only get diet soda, because she didn't want to get the sugar soda. So I would. Oh God, I can't even believe I'm saying this, but I would put Sweet and Low in the diet soda. I mean, I hope I don't get cancer, like 10 different types, because no,
your
that was
Sweet
living fast and
Wow.
loose back
Interesting.
in the day. Back in the.
Can we just talk about how bad for you but good cereal is? Why is it this breakfast staple and yet there is no
It's
nutritional
cultural.
value?
Well, it depends.
But there's a whole aisle devoted to it. at
I love the
grocery
grape
store.
nuts.
Oh, grape nuts are good. But there,
A little bit of brown sugar on those bad boys.
You put
What about the
At
sweet
least
and low?
brown sugar.
I know,
brown
not
sugar
sweet
is a
and low.
graduation.
I'm so
Not
glad
sweet and
you
low.
Oh,
Yeah.
sweet and low.
advanced
I
from
just
sweet
don't
and
get it.
low.
It's not even good.
Wheaties are good.
Wheaties are good. Yeah, we would enjoy
I
Wheaties.
don't like those.
You don't like Wheaties? They are
taste
cardboardy.
chalky.
And
I feel like this is just an episode on cereal now.
I'm trying to find some healthy cereals that we could talk about, but they're so.
so this
slim pickings.
ties into, because I had an unhealthy relationship in the way I saw things. Of course, that carries over to every aspect of life, including putting sweet and low on Raisin Bran and developing an unhealthy relationship with
Like
food.
codependency.
Oh, weird.
God knew you
Weird
needed
stuff.
Mel.
Absolutely.
So that you could.
Oh, I don't
live.
know that I ate a fresh vegetable until I married that woman. So now all this to say is it's interesting because I think about when I got married, I was not a whole and complete person, right? But the hardship and the trial of marriage, and I say hardship with quotation marks because hardship meant not getting my own way. Let's put it that way.
Okay.
So that being a difficulty, like shaped how I see the world today. Now that can happen in marriage, although I think it can be much more difficult because, as we were talking about the last podcast, we start to see the person as just an extension of us,
Right.
and not truly an other.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes, we can potentially being single gives us an opportunity to truly get connected to ourselves, not, throw our grappling hooks onto another, but truly say, this is who I am, emotionally, spiritually, mentally, physically. So having said that, we heard about Monika's story and have yet to hear other parts of her story, but I'm curious to hear from Caleb.
What would you like to know, Chris?
What do you got?
What do I got?
No. What is your experience in the church of being single or outside of the church or in your life? How has it, how's it potentially played its part in your sanctification or your...
And
Yeah.
who you are.
Yeah.
It's been pretty good.
Good to know. Moving on.
Yeah.
And that's a wrap.
Yeah. No, I've been single pretty much my whole life. I've never been in like a...
Wait, how old are you?
I'm 26.
Wait, are
Okay.
you allowed to ask that?
26?
26 and
You
not
hold
in a
yourself so much more maturely.
But a baby.
I have children older
Maybe it's
than
because
you.
I've been single my whole life.
Potentially.
No.
That could be it.
Yeah, so I don't know. Dating was never like a major priority for me. I saw a lot of people in my life that it was like
Okay.
in a healthy way. But for me, it was not really something that I felt the need to rush into or find my identity in.
Okay.
And it wasn't until college that I went on a date for the first time.
Okay.
And things went pretty well, but then we realized that it wasn't something that needed to continue.
Okay.
And yeah, I've had different attractions and different
Sure.
times that I've
Well, you're...
tried to pursue a relationship. But
Yeah.
it's yeah, I don't know.
Okay.
And it's been a journey of my own self-discovery too over the course of my life, being in different periods of my singleness as well. Like, there are a lot of different factors other than being in a relationship in your life that affect who you are.
Yes.
Like in
so
difficult
true.
job situations and difficult, family situations. And,
Okay.
yeah, it was especially in regards to a job where I just felt so lost in it and so like numb and like I wasn't really seeking anything in my life and realizing, okay, I need to take some time and actually focus on myself more and my
Wow.
relationship with things like myself in particular, but like
Wow.
USA creation and yeah,
So,
and others as well. Yeah.
Just out of curiosity, were you, how would you, I may be putting you on the spot here as we turn
That's okay.
this into a
You
therapy.
can
session.
decline to answer.
But what was your understanding or learning of like relationships growing up? Did you, tell me about that.
That's a good question. It was never something that my parents really pushed. Like I had my parents as an example.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
You have siblings?
I do. I have two older siblings.
Okay.
One who's been in a relationship for about a year now, and the other who's been married for several years and has 4 kids.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I think primarily, like, I have felt some pressure, like I kind of mentioned in the last episode, people trying to, like, people who don't hardly know me at all,
Right.
saying like, oh man, I know this person who would be perfect for you.
Like,
how do you know who would be
single? You
perfect
must
for
be
me?
desperate.
Exactly.
just
The
assumed,
reason they're
right?
perfect for you is because they're also single.
Yeah.
It's assumed that if you're
Here's the
single, you're
criteria.
looking
That's the
miserable,
criteria.
right?
Check.
Okay.
A woman. Check.
Yeah. So yeah, and I have experienced from, I think, the church more so this
Okay.
idea that, singleness is a period of life and it's something that you just need to get through, and eventually you'll come to your. I feel like this is
Wow.
definitely highlighted a lot more for women in the church than it is for men
Okay,
in the
yeah,
church.
sure.
But there's that. I don't know. I feel like every story growing up has a happy ending of the woman
Yes,
finding
no, you're
her
absolutely
Prince
right.
Charming, and then yay,
It's like the pinnacle of
drama's
existence.
result. Yeah, exactly. Like, you can't be happy until you have that other person in your life. But-
Wow.
So I found an article online, and it made an excellent point about. Let me see if I can ring it up here.
Well, you're bringing it up. I feel like no one in any movie has actually defined what happily ever after is. And I'm like, happily ever after is hell on earth. No. I mean, the definition is not roses and rainbows.
Right.
And
It's like everything's resolved as soon
it's
as you
horrible.
get married, and it's like everything's great
Oh,
after
no,
that.
the beginning.
And they
That could
lived
be the
yeah,
beginning.
and they lived happily ever after. They had to do a lot of hard work and being in relationship.
Oh, my
They had
gosh.
to find themselves. They had to get in arguments. They had to separate. They had to get back together. They had
There's no
someone died.
realization
Someone
that
got
everybody's
sick.
happily ever after can look different.
Yeah.
So the article I found was from a guy named Corey Farr. I assume a guy named Corey Farr. Why am I assuming it's a guy? No idea. But it is called The Myth of Singleness is a Special Calling. And the author's point is that singleness is not special because at some point we are all single. So what do we do with our singleness? Right? Is it just, do we see it as, to your point, Caleb, do we see it as, oh my gosh, I just have to, hold my breath through this until I get to the quote unquote promised land of finding a partner? And I think the part of the problem in the church has been, even with sexuality, is our culture is hypersexual. Carried over to then the church says, oh no, sex is bad until you get married. Then it's all bets are off, right? And then you bring that unhealthy aspect into a marriage, and then a marriage becomes hell. And the crossed wires are like, wait a second, but I'm not. It's not okay to be single, and here I am married, and now all these other perverse things are happening because I think the individual as a single person hasn't fully grown in maturity in their relationship with the Lord. Anyway, that's theory.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm really quick because when you were saying singleness, I was just going back to what Paul said. He didn't say remain single, right? And I think it's this whole definition of singleness again, right? It's you're not single. You're in a relationship with Christ.
Good point.
Both of you.
Exactly.
And I don't
Right.
think so. I feel like it's the word is
kind of a misnomer.
Such a taboo. I don't even know.
Yeah.
Is it a taboo word? I don't know.
You can't start banning words again, Caroline.
I can do whatever I want to do.
Just like telling a dude to man up. Sometimes,
Can't
maybe.
tell. No.
Sure you can.
No.
Sure
No.
you can. In a loving way. Hey,
No,
man.
we
Hey,
don't
bro.
say.
Hey, bro, you need to man up. I'm here for you.
You need to man up when
I'm
you
here
say
for you.
that.
I feel like those two things do not usually go together. Man up, I'm here for you.
That's usually before the push out of the airplane
Right.
or whatever, off the cliff or
You
whatever.
can do it. Jump.
You could do it. So then, it's important to be able to even look at if quote unquote relationships are the promised land, then you get to the promised land and you are not whole. There is more hell on earth in married relationships because of the lack of wholeness without Christ. then I mean, our culture is aching and it's hurting, and that includes. And what I mean by our culture is not just popular culture; it's the church culture that is writhing under the pain of potentially this other person is my savior, or the circumstance is my savior, or whatever. Instead of, hey, I've gone through this time in my life where I had to learn to be okay with myself. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. You have to learn. I have learned that I needed to be still, sit in my silence, and that ultimately and only he's my go-to.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. How does that look practically? Because I know a lot of people are like, oh, okay, well.
So it took a lot of practice and being consistent in it, a lot of reminding myself.
Thank you for saying that.
Consistency.
Because it's not a just, hey, you say this and, oh, there you go.
No,
Do
no.
that.
Right.
No, this is years of just leading to where I am.
Building
It's
the muscle.
not. And I tell, like, when I work with individuals or anyone, even friends, that this is not an overnight thing. But when you make the commitment and surrender to work towards your relationship, know that ultimately the goal is, what he wants is that you go to him first and foremost.
Yeah.
Like in moment of distress or frustration, when I would just, text friends, venting.
Yeah.
I've gone from starting to text, deleting it, that I don't even consider I'm going to go to a friend, to my sister. I just, wherever I am, I just start talking.
Yeah.
My vent session,
Yeah,
my
it's him.
cuss moments,
Right,
my whatever.
Okay, right on.
And I think that's
My
so
reality,
I mean, that's honest,
even
yeah.
my hurt at him, and that's what he wants. His
He can
goal
take
is
it.
that I need you to come to me,
Yeah.
not anywhere else.
Yeah.
It's me that you need to come to, me that you need to trust, to have patience with, to confide it, to know that I'm your strength. He is my everything. He is my whole.
Right.
And that's the relationship I have. And when I have that, then I know that if and when I am meant to have a companion, that I'm not going to run to my companion. I already have a solid
Oh, my
relationship.
goodness.
Right. Which is
Wow.
so, and I think I find over and over again that people don't know what it means to have a relationship with Christ. And I want to be like, it's the same but better as the relationship you have with the closest person in your life. Just choose Christ over that person. Right? Do what you do with that person. Do the venting sessions. If you need to cuss, do the cussing, do the crying, do the calling out, do text God, not that person.
Yeah.
And that seems so foreign to so many people, but like, that is what relationship is with Christ and with anybody else, but it should first and foremost be
And
with
the
him.
beautiful part about that, at least my experience has been, because I have come to be in that relationship, I feel him.
Wow.
I hear him.
Yes.
I connect with him.
Yes.
I wake up from a bad dream and I immediately go, I don't want to fall asleep to that dream. And I just start speaking
Wow.
and have a peaceful dream.
Yeah.
I have now hear and can catch on to him speaking through others. Like I had
That's amazing.
I think it was a few months ago. I think I mentioned to you a couple of months ago, questioning if I should consider dating. But I was like, okay, well, I don't know where that is yet, right? Because my focus has been on my son, and then just on my career, on myself. Because I'm like, he's gonna go off to college, and I need to build my life, not
Fair
my
enough.
life and a
Yes.
husband, right? Just
Yes.
my life.
Yes. Yes.
So then I'm like, well, do I want to dab into that again, right? So out of nowhere on my feed, and by the way, my social media feed has been filtered all where it's just Christian based, any positive, any Christian speakers, pastors, and just family.
Yeah.
So I come across this Christian app that was being advertised by like a Christian singer called Upward, I think, or something like that. And I went, okay, this person is a promising, I kind of trust this endorsement. So I kind of left it, didn't do anything with it.
Okay.
That next day, my sister sends me a screenshot. She goes, hey, I'm hearing a lot of good things about this app. Have you considered maybe if you want to start dating again? I'm like, okay, this is weird.
Yeah.
Still don't do anything about it.
Okay.
The next day, go meet a girlfriend here downtown for breakfast. I talked to her about it. We start walking. We come across these 3 older lady who were going to a restaurant, needed direction. And we finished a conversation. Her and I were talking about God, and that's what we always do. And the lady turns around out of the 3, completely changes her body demeanor, looks at me, and she goes, "He blesses you, you know."
Whoa.
He says yes.
Oh,
And I just
Whoa.
went, and then my friend goes, "No, she's talking to you. There's no one behind you." I'm like, you know, you have a funny way of showing things.
Wow.
So then I went, my after they left, my friend goes, "It's okay to start considering to date, right?"
Yeah.
So I sat with that
Good.
because
good.
I went, I can run with this
Yeah. Yes.
and fall
Right.
back to the same patterns.
Right.
Or I can say, "Okay, Lord, now tell me, what does this mean?"
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right?
Stop saying what I say.
You know, this whole show is about me mimicking you.
Clearly.
So I'm still sitting in it, and I'm okay with
And that's
that.
the being still part, right? That you talk about.
I'm okay with that. And I every now and then I
Wow.
question it, and I have moments of I'm feeling lonely, and I sit
Yeah.
with it. I'm like, well, what does this mean?
That is key. I think that is key because what we so get used to, and this is single, married, whoever, this is the human condition, is we have this feeling, and we take that feeling and we're like, I don't want that. And so we grab to the nearest pacifier, drug, whatever. And I suppose, you know, that feeling of, well, I could imagine for a lot of people a feeling of loneliness. And there's loneliness in and outside of marriage, most definitely.
Yes.
Yeah.
But there is that loneliness, and then the immediate assumption is it's because I need a person. And what I'm hearing you say is that, well, you can feel that loneliness and know that that is a calling to reconnect to the Lord. And awesome. You said to me something after you told me that story. You said to me something that really hit me, and you said, well, okay, I can take dating or leave it. But you said your biggest concern or fear is that it would interrupt your relationship to the Lord. And I just think that's amazing.
That's my
incredible.
biggest fear, losing
That's
that
incredible.
relationship if I were to divert.
That is really
Yeah.
cool. Because that's where we all should be.
He's my peace. He's
Yeah.
my everything, you know, and so I'm not willing to give that up for anything.
I love
Like,
that.
I'm not-
I love that.
it's
And
not
I
gonna
think
happen.
I think that goes across the board. I think that in even whatever relationship we have, right?
Right.
I talk to moms whose kids are going away and then the last one's leaving the house. And she is unmoored. She does not know what to do because her serenity and her peace came from, I have this person to focus on. The other thing that happens in marriage relationships, if there's not emotional connection between husband and wife, either the husband or the wife, and I've seen it on both ends, will emotionally connect to their children in a way that is incestuous.
Yeah.
In other words, they call it emotional incestuous, and they will get their fulfillment from emotionally connecting to the child instead of their spouse.
Yeah.
Right. And so, to your point, Monica, being able to say, wait a second, this need I have isn't just for another person. It's to be knit to my Savior.
It is. I just feel that when in any moment, you know, I've prayed for things along the way, and I see a testimony he has delivered when he had felt the need, right?
Yeah.
But most importantly, when I've prayed for peace, when I've prayed, hey, you know, we're meant to be with companion. We're meant to be
Oh, sure, we're
together,
relational.
right? So then I say, if you've put this desire in my heart,
Yeah.
True.
then please give me peace with it until you feel fit. So then when I have that moment of I'm feeling lonely, I immediately go, hey, I asked for peace, remember? So what's happening here? Help me with this.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah.
And
So
my
amazing.
old self would have gone on a few days in a funk,
Okay.
Aha.
right? Versus in this, now it's like, okay, I'm good. I'm going to be fine.
Okay.
again,
Okay.
and I think I said this on last podcast. You're so inspiring for me as a married, again, I'm
Right.
a married woman, to be like, I need to work on that relationship with God.
Right.
I want what you have.
That's right. Absolutely.
We all should want that.
Right. So
Brings peace.
this gets into, I read an article from my buddy Preston Sprinkle.
Sprinkle.
Well, of course, he has no.
It's always a fun name.
Okay.
Dr. Sprinkle.
He, of course, has no idea who I am. I would love to like take a
He will one
selfie
day.
of myself with him in the background saying, just hanging out with Preston. No big deal.
I'm sure he would take a selfie with you.
He would super take a selfie.
He's
'cause,
going to
of
be on the
course,
podcast one day. I can feel it.
Oh,
I
jeez.
feel it.
Hey,
Set a goal.
He's saying it
Preston,
now.
Preston, I'll answer your phone call. Preston. Never
Should I
mind.
put your phone number out there right now?
So he wrote an article.
Flashing down below the screen.
yeah.
He wrote an article related to a book by a guy named Stan Grentz with the title "The Sexuality of Singleness." And he there's a bunch of stuff he talks about. One of the things I pulled out of it is the concept of the Greek word eros.
Yeah.
And eros we've equated with like genital intimacy. And that is not it. The type of eros that they're talking about, especially in the Greek, from my understanding, is to know and be known. Right? I think our culture then has warped that, perverted it, into like genitalia only.
Yeah.
Not our sexuality as far as male, female, and the need for connection and intimacy aside from genitalia. All that to say is, once we start seeing it in those terms, then being single isn't just, oh, you're going without sex. Because that's one of the ways our culture, including our church, has perverted it, is that, oh, you're going to go without sex. That must be bad. Well, no. It can be very good, especially when you truly know yourself and are truly able to be transparent and honest with an other. And in those moments, you truly know them as an other. And that is a deeper connection. And to your point about the deeper connection you have with the Lord is actually apart from just being distracted by the presence of another person. Not taking away the importance of relationship, because we are very relational. But we've got to stop winnowing it down to genitals.
Well, because I think that I was thinking that earlier too, like, right, especially, I guess I can say, especially in the church, when they see single people, they're thinking, we got to get you married so you can have sex.
Well, I don't think they finished that sentence.
They're not saying it out loud.
They're saying it with
but
their eyes.
You know that, like, that's in the back of people's heads, is like, because I thought it. I mean, I'll be honest.
Sure.
Like, and it's,
Well,
this has really opened my eyes, this whole conversation of like, oh my gosh, that's like horrible. That's not why people get married.
Well, I hope not. But it's funny because when I was in the college group, the joke was, it's better to get married than to burn with lust.
Right.
So it's like, okay, so you see an attractive gal.
Yeah.
And you're like, well, I better get married quick. And by the way, I did. Once I got a hold of Melanie, I didn't want to let her go. So you got to put a ring on it or whatever.
But it is what people often think, right?
Right.
They do think that.
Right, and that is such a narrow and short-sighted, incomplete understanding of our whole selves, right? Our emotional, spiritual, mental, and physical selves. Yeah, physical is that one, like a quarter of an aspect of who we really are. So.
Yeah. But and then so talking about knowing yourself, like, Monica, I feel like that's truly like you do, because you feel certain ways. Well, wait, God, I'm feeling lonely. Like, you're able to acknowledge that right off the bat and not sit in it, and then to say, like, what am I supposed to do with this? I asked you for peace, and now I'm feeling this. And so I think, like, being able to, again, identify and process through those feelings is such a great way to know yourself. But again, I'm not going to say a person, you are going to a person. You're not going to some Joe Schmo, you're going to God with all of that.
Yeah,
which is where
all
we
of
should
it,
go.
every aspect of it. I promised myself, I'm an emotional person.
Okay.
And when I go through things in life, I like to dig and analyze. And there are those who just are, solution focused, right? And there are those that's like, okay, no, let's understand it. So I promised myself after my divorce that I needed to heal and I needed to be content. And I need to work on things that were, my mistakes, my faults.
Wow.
Before
You don't say.
or if
So good.
I entered another relationship.
Right.
And that wasn't even because I was raised, my mom is Catholic, my dad is Eastern Greek Orthodox. So I was always raised in the church. But it wasn't until I moved to Turlock, actually briefly before I started going to New Life. And because I kind of, as I grew up, I diverted because to me, it became all about traditions and religion focused. And I was like, well, that's not feeding me.
Yeah.
Sure.
Right. So then when I started going to New Life, things just started shifting in my life that I had not even, imagined. So
That's
I
amazing,
dug
yeah.
layers and layers
Right on.
and layers.
So an Orthodox and a Catholic married, and they had a Protestant. It's good to
I was
know.
like, is this a joke? Is this
good
sort
to
of a
know.
joke?
Where
Where are we going with
Orthodox
this?
and a Catholic
going,
walk into a
Chris?
bar. I don't know. Not that I wasn't listening. I was listening.
He's coming up with all the jokes.
Yeah, I appreciate that whole process you mentioned that it's so not easy. It's
not
over a long period of time.
It is
Okay,
not
so
easy.
just for a second, I want to camp on that. It's not easy.
No,
And that's okay.
it's not.
But it's
You're gonna
worth
have
it.
moments.
But it's good.
You're gonna fail.
Yeah.
And that's when I started to learn what it means to repent, and what it means to confess.
Yeah, there's a
and
difference.
those two don't. They need to be together. They're
Right.
not,
Right.
Yes.
right.
But it is, yeah. I think a lot of times people think, well, that's a hard relationship. Like it's easier for me just to call my friend or text my friend, so I'm going to do that. Like easy.
Because they'll agree with me.
Right, exactly. Easy
They'll
doesn't
understand.
mean better.
Ooh,
Like,
so true.
good
So true.
relationship
But you have to
is
come
a
to
lot
that
of work.
realization that life is hard.
Yes.
And if you really want to change your patterns, if you really want to change things not repeating, then take that challenging road.
Yeah. Well,
Right.
it's like when we talk about this a lot as counselors, therapists, is right to change a bad habit, you have to have a good habit. But that bad habit has created that neuro pathway, that
Yes.
rut
Yes.
that has to be filled in
Right.
before you can start the new rut of the good habit.
Is it a
So
significant
gonna
other
take
fetish? Is that what's happening?
a significant other fetish?
Well, I think
Is this another joke? No.
No, it's not. It's the whole focus on I'm monomaniacal in my thought process to think that someone else will deliver me. Now, there's some truth to that. The
Yeah,
someone else, though,
yeah.
isn't another person. It's our Lord Jesus Christ.
Amen.
Sounds like another way to say idolatry as well.
Oh,
Yes.
yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
100%.
So, Caleb, tell me, as you're hearing Monika and through her process, I'm curious to hear yours. Because over here on the other side of the male equation, and I'm not that you're speaking for every
I'm speaking for
single
all
male.
men.
Yeah.
But yeah, how do you relate to that? That relationship with Christ and how? Just I'll let you take over there.
Yeah, I think for me, I've always been, and something I've come to realize over the past couple of years is I'm always very good at like taking care of other people. Like I love to be there for people. I love to make people happy. I love to do all these things.
You're gonna need a lot of phone calls, I think.
But I've never been very good at knowing myself or
I know a good therapist.
yeah, and so that was kind of a journey that I went on over the past couple years. I wanted to be
Wow.
very intentional about that. I stepped away from the position that I was in for multiple reasons, but so much of my cycle was I would like work, get home, and like numb out and seek all these things.
Wow.
And I'm like, and feel so unfulfilled and like,
Yeah.
why do I keep going to this? And
Right.
so I needed to take some time to step away and like really process and build good habits and other things. And I'm still in that process of getting to know and care for myself.
Yeah.
But I'm way healthier than I used to be.
Wow.
But what I love about what you've been sharing too, and is really inspiring to me in like my relationship with God, is I think so often in our prayer lives, we're so afraid to bring our real emotions to God. We feel guilty if we're like angry with God, or
Right.
we always like,
Right.
I don't know, we sabotage ourselves because we're like, God, but I know you've got it. I know it's okay. And
We self-edit
I know I
before we
shouldn't
even
feel
get it
this
out there.
way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
And
We
it's like,
filter
that's
it.
not a real relationship with
Yeah.
someone if we filter
Yeah.
everything we say. God wants us to bring our hearts before him, right?
Right.
And it's so much better for us when we're
Absolutely.
able to do that and have a real relationship with him.
Because he already knows, right? He
Right.
just needs to hear
He
you
knows
say
what
it.
you he knows what you filtered out.
Yeah.
He needs you to know.
Yeah,
that
you're
he
not
knows.
like who,
Yeah.
it's like who you're fooling, yourself, because you're not
Right.
fooling
So
him.
true.
Yeah.
That gets to the false relationship or the false self paradigm, and where we and that's the potential when matching up with another person is that we are presenting this false self. And that's why, Melanie's dad used to tell her that if you're dating, he's on his best behavior, which
Right.
means if he's a big fat jerk while you're dating, run for the hills. And so I remember when Mel and I got together, so much conflict with our first 6 months to a year because we spent years prior running from ourselves, running away from things, and so nothing bothered us until, of course, we got put in a room like putting two cats in a bag, and that we had a wedding set of 4 glasses that never made it past the first year. But that sort of like volatile conflict, almost, that is a not knowing of the self, and so. To your point, being able to say, okay, I can't even run to this other here. I've got to run to the only one who can sustain this, and that is the Lord.
And that's why I fear losing that relationship.
Right.
Yeah. And so here's what I tell clients. If you fear it, then it's not a bad thing. It's a good thing, because it would be more of a problem if you were like, no problem here.
Right.
So
No, absolutely.
then you may not be living in a certain type of reality. So
Absolutely.
absolutely.
So
Okay.
good. So
Wow.
good. Okay.
I've been learning. Now, don't get me wrong. I think marriage is awesome.
I do too.
It is amazing.
Absolutely. I agree.
Right.
Not the experience I had, but I agree. I've seen it. No, I agree.
Yes.
yeah.
I agree.
Yeah, and our spouses truly can be our best friend. But I even saying for me, marriage is awesome. I mean, that's come through years, and many of those years not differentiating between who I am and who my wife is,
Right.
and not letting her be her, and knowing I am this other person. Right. And so spending a lot of time trying to project on her, what she needed to do to make sure I'm okay. And, I'm sure vice versa. So I think that all things given to the Lord, find their full worth. So being single, being married. And so I guess our encouragement to anyone listening is to be able to fully appreciate and respect those who are single around you.
Yeah.
Anything you guys have?
Being single is awesome too. Like I feel
It's
like
amazing.
that's
Yes.
what, we
Yes.
can sit here and say being married is awesome, but I also
Yes.
feel like after
Being
these 2
single's
episodes,
awesome.
I'm like, being single is awesome too. It's not like the
You could
doom and
totally
gloom I
take a
always think
motorcycle
about
trip
it.
around the country by yourself.
Wow.
You still take motorcycle trips, right?
Wait a second,
What
I
are you
do.
talking about? You're married and you still
I'm
do
like,
that.
you still do that.
Kids are gone.
So
Yeah.
as we close up, as we wrap up, do either one of you have any last thoughts or comments
Final
that
words.
you want to share with married people and single people alike?
It's a thought towards building your relationship. It was not done overnight.
Yeah.
Awesome.
And
Very
it
true.
really took with consistency and diving into his words. I've read
Yes.
books from different perspectives,
Okay.
women and men, Christian based.
Yeah.
Right.
I've listened to pastors. I've watched sermons. I've dived into
Sounds
it.
like you've taken this seriously.
I have.
It's not just a
It's-
flitting
if
moment.
I,
I love
sometimes
it.
I tell my friends if I could sit in my like devotionals and books and sermons all day long.
Yeah.
That's like my favorite thing to do. I'll do it.
Right.
Wow.
Just meditate
So
on him.
so it's taken it's work and effort, like anything, right? Students,
Like
you're not
any
gonna do
relationship,
good
yeah.
unless you put that time and
Yeah.
effort into your work.
Yep.
Wow.
And marriage is the same way. You have to put in the time and effort and be consistent. So it's
Right
the
on.
same way in your relationship. Whatever that effort is, that looks like for you.
That is amazing.
You do that.
Yeah.
Sure.
I love it.
Yeah, I would say one thing that I find happens a lot, regardless of where you are, I think there's a lot of separation between people who are single and people who are married. And I've
Yeah.
benefited so much from getting to
Wow.
really develop friendships and get to know people who are married, even though I'm not. And I think, I mean, that goes beyond just singleness and,
Yeah.
and married. It
Yeah.
goes to different generations coming together too, right? Different
Yeah.
backgrounds coming together
Yes,
and learning
yes,
from each
yes.
other. Because I think we can often like create, I don't know, like people who are single are
Yeah.
just so different from people who are
Silos.
married.
Yeah.
But we're all people.
Yeah, absolutely.
So- Right.
Yeah, I think
Absolutely.
the more that we can get rid of those dividing lines and
Yeah.
So
bring people
great.
together
I
more.
love that.
Yeah.
It gets a good
so
word.
much goodness is going to come from those conversations and those relationships. Yeah.
Awesome.
I
Awesome.
agree.
Yeah.
I
Well,
agree.
thank you two so much.
Yeah.
Thank you.
This
This
is
was
amazing.
fun.
Awesome.
Love,
Good.
love having you
I
here.
can talk all day.
Always
Oh,
happy that
you'll
you
be
come back,
asked to.
Caleb.
Yes, absolutely. So
All right.
thanks again,
Until
guys.
next time.
Thanks for joining us today as we continue our journey talking about life's many questions.
To stay connected with us, you can follow us at Downey Park Counseling on both Facebook and Instagram. You can also follow Caroline on Instagram at Relatable Caroline. And make sure you tune in next week for our next question.